Welcome to From the Minds of Raging Brats. I'm Heather.
And I'm Ashley.
Welcome to another week of What's on Our Minds.
So, we both have had quite a lot going on this week. It's been a busy week.
Yeah, it's definitely been a rough one for me. I'm definitely struggling, worse than I have in a while. Not with depression so much, but because financially I'm really at a crucial point where I might crash and burn, immediately. And since I have been working extremely hard to prevent that from happening after getting screwed over royally last year and having my first new car totaled and everything, it definitely is making me feel a little bit like a failure to be here after so much hard work.
Yeah. I think it's perfectly normal to feel like that when you reach setbacks, especially when they do feel so detrimental. But at the same time, your bestie, I'm here to remind you, look where we were 4 years ago. Look how every day we were shocked that our hearts didn't fucking explode because of the amount of stress and everything going on. We're worlds in worlds different places. We're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, I definitely just didn't expect to have as many car troubles with a brand new car from a car dealership as I've had, or for the car dealership to be such a piece of crap when it came to holding up their warranty and doing the work.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't expect to take it in for work and then a couple weeks later find out that the work that they did was not done. And that I had to pay out of pocket a different place to do the work while I'd already paid, and it was under warranty, and they still didn't do the work. So yeah.
See, that's actually a problem I've heard about and had other friends come across a lot. I guess a lot of the dealerships around here are kind of shady, like they don't really hold up to and let us know if you've dealt with these kind of places too.
Well, unfortunately, Oregon's dealerships take advantage that Oregon did away with the lemon law, and it's kind of ridiculous that they did that because they screwed most of the people of the state. Because it's not just me. Like, I know lots of people that have gotten royally screwed, and honestly, legal action may end up being necessary, but it's really hard even to have legal action when the state takes away your recourses.
Yeah, well, it's like my mom, because she's been a caregiver on and off through her whole life as well. She had taken care of a lady that bought a car at a local dealership that is still around to this day. She had just lost her husband, never bought a car, so she didn't know you should test drive it, blah, blah, blah. Got in the car after she bought it. Car had no brakes. She went through a red light intersection and a semi hit her and ended up severing her leg, and she needed care for the rest of her life after that. Dealership's still around. They got a slap on the wrist.
Oregon does that to a lot of things. It's like Oregon malpractice laws are set up to protect doctors, not patients. When I get that in the 80s there was a lot of sue-happy people, but you cannot change the laws that protect the people that can't protect themselves because there's assholes out there.
Well, yeah, there's so locally in Southern Oregon, we have a lady in jail because she put tap water into people's veins and that she was taking their pain medications away from them. And in the charges, they said that they could, because several people died in this too, but they said that they could not prove that those people suffered. open up a medical journal. It
You can
clearly
prove.
states that is a horrible way to go. And these were patients that were elderly, some of them. Some of them were in horrific accidents. And I really have a feeling this lady might get off with the bare minimum charges because they're trying to make it seem like her addiction.
They were going to go anyways.
Well, that or like her addiction that drove her to do this was so much worse than what she put these people through. And they're both horrible things to go through, but you know what? You don't make somebody suffer for your habits, your addictions, your whatever.
My friend in Portland, by the way, this is off topic, but my friend in Portland told me that she is finishing up her life coaching stuff, and she's going to start her own podcast for wellness, mental health and wellness.
That's awesome.
So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to follow her. She's pretty inspiring. I don't know why I got completely off topic. Probably because I am not okay with all the negativity that's been involved in my life right now, and that kind of was a little bit gruesome.
It is. It is.
I know it's something that needed to be addressed, but oof.
Yeah.
My brain kind of went, nope, detach, run away.
I get that. But, you know, with any luck, the justice system will actually do its job. And sometimes it does happen.
It does happen on occasion. Let me make that clear, though, on occasion. Having been on both sides of the justice system, I know all too well how few and far between it actually serves justice. But, you know, it does happen. I will say it like this, though. Like my dad has this saying, even a blind dog gets a bone some days. That's how I feel about the justice system.
Yeah. I really wish there was a way that we could take apart the justice system and actually reform it to where it helped people. Like they've done it in Norway, they've done it in Sweden, to where when you get incarcerated, they actually help you get over your addictions and get into better housing and jobs and stuff, where we just punish.
So what were we saying about the justice system?
It oftentimes doesn't dispense what I feel the people feel is just actions. And unfortunately, I think we are being shown more and more how the people that are in charge of our justice system really can get away with whatever they want and rewrite laws and change things and pardon their children and things like that.
But don't let you be a common person that just really had their first mistake and wants to get themselves, they've already done their time, they've already been back in society for a prolonged period, say a decade or more, sometimes longer. Like some people I know, they've been back in society for over 30 years without any kind of, and that they still can't get their presidential pardon, which is basically the same thing as an expungement for people that have like federal charges. At all, because they just don't give a shit.
And that's what I was saying. Like, I really wish we could take a note out of like Switzerland's and Norway's and Greenway's, like how they approach incarceration and reform it, because it is trying to teach people lessons. It is trying to show people they can have a career, and it is trying to help them get out of whatever situation they were in that made them feel like they had to go to those lengths.
And they do not dehumanize them, which is a big thing. Like they want them to feel like they are a part of society. Like there's, I think Switzerland, I was watching about a prison in Switzerland where they get to go home on the weekends to stay with their family.
I see how that could be really good for some inmates. honestly. Like,
if they're non-violent offenders,
like,
they get to go home on the weekend. Like, they're in prison during the week and they work for the prison, they do all their time and stuff, but on the weekends they want them bonding with their family so that when they get out, they have a reason to not reoffend.
Yeah. And that does make a lot of sense, because I know a lot of people that do a reoffend. They do it because they're like, well, what's the point of not doing it? I don't have anyone helping me here on the outs. Like, at least there I had friends. At least there I knew what the rules were every day. Like,
yeah, I think that is a huge thing. Like, a lot of the prison systems used to do furloughs, where you would get, once you'd reached a certain level of trustee, and you could get weekends with your family and stuff. They've really gotten to the point where they just make that impossible to reach. And then by the time you reach it, you've been institutionalized so long that it doesn't really matter at that point. Like, for you, it's just for somebody that's going to be long-term incarcerated, which is the only people that get offered furloughs anymore. And by the time you've gotten it, it's like a long time, usually 10 years or longer incarcerated before you're getting your furloughs approved. And then by then you're institutionalized, and it's just an you want to go, but you're wanting to go to smuggle shit in to make yourself more money on the inside, or because you want to go get laid, something like that. But it's not because you're like, oh yeah, I'm so excited to go see my family. No, it's like, how can I turn this into an opportunity?
Yeah, because I'm going to have to go back for however many years. I'm not going to come back out again until...
Or even if they're getting furloughs, it's like, well, I'm only getting these because I've been here for so long. I'm not going anywhere for so long. And most of those people, they don't even really look at like what their good time out date is, because even if it's like a few years shorter than their out date, they're just like, I'd rather just do my flat time and tell these people to eat shit and die.
Exactly.
So you can't threaten those people, because even if you're like, oh, I'll add a new charge for contraband, they're like, ooh, you're going to add a year.
Yeah. Well, I think like that's one of the major flaws of the U.S. Prison system. We make people feel hopeless. Like they're never going to amount to anything. They're never going to be okay. And so, of course,
they tell them that.
Yeah, and shit, they tell them a lot worse than that too.
Yeah.
But it really adds to of course I'm gonna go reoffend. Like, you told me I'm still a worthless piece of shit the whole time I was in there, even if I was trying to do better. So of course I'm still a piece of shit. But if you give a person actual education and ways to help better themselves, I believe a good 8 out of 10 times that person is going to go take that education, go take that whatever, and better themselves, because now they know they can have a job that's something more of what they want instead of what they have to do. And they have a way out in their mind instead of just repeating, this is all I'm good for.
Well, and we also need to stop treating education like it's a one-size-fits-all. Like, that's a big problem that gets people into the prison system to begin with.
Yes.
Because they go into this school, and I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying Dr. Seuss, because there's so many people that are up in arms about him now, but the reality is that Dr. Seuss made some really good points in his years of writing. And one of them was, if you judge a fish by how well it can climb a tree, it will always feel like a failure. That is true with people that cannot learn in the traditional learning settings, and they go into these schools, and these teachers are like, if you can't sit quietly at this desk and read this book with everybody else and answer these questions with everybody else in exactly this way and write the paragraph this way and write the answer this way, then you are worthless. You are a failure. You are no good. You can't learn. You're a piece of crap. And the reality is it's like this school that my son's in now, where his whole life, his ADHD, and the teachers have known this. If they leave him alone in the back of the classroom, like not outside of the classroom, but like in the back of the desks where everybody's sitting, pacing with a fidget in his hand, he can hear everything they're saying. He will answer any question they have for him, and he gets it right. But if he sits at a desk, he can't answer a single question because his mind is racing.
Yeah.
Where his mind isn't when he's up moving and doing a fidget. His mind is occupied, so it leaves space for him to absorb the new knowledge. When he's sitting at a desk, his mind is racing about 500 things, and he can't hear anything anybody's saying. And honestly, he doesn't want to because he's busy looking at the pink hair that this girl's got and the green toes. And this kid over here, he shaved his head last week for no apparent reason. And this one, all of a sudden, a white kid with dreads, and he doesn't understand that. Like, he's just like, and I'm supposed to do, so what? I'm overstimulated. And so he starts cracking sarcastic jokes. So at this school, they're like, oh, well, let's see how we can take all of those things and turn them into learning tools. And they do. They take his sarcasm right in stride. I mean, if he crosses the line as inappropriate, they'll tell him that. But if not, they'll let him tell his jokes and make the whole class laugh. And then they'll turn whatever he was going on about into a lesson on the topic that they're talking about. And they're like...
See, and that's awesome, because there's not enough educators that I feel even want to try to do that.
And it's the whole school.
Yeah.
That's what's cool. And it's not a traditional, like, you go in there and there's not, like, traditional classrooms where there's just a class and you go in and there's a bunch of desks. It's like this giant open auditorium, and then there's like some tables at different places, and you see projects on the ground and stuff hanging on the walls.
That's so cool.
And yeah, and they're all involved. And even while they're in their class, like at their table, they can see the other classes working and going on. And so they also regulate to a certain extent, because like, while I may want to disrupt my class, I don't want to disrupt everybody.
Right. See, that also brings in like spatial awareness, how what I'm doing affects a large group of people. That's awesome.
Yeah, and they're doing it without being like, you're a bad kid.
Yeah. No, I don't like these kids staring at me because I'm interrupting what they're doing. So I think I should shut up now.
I think I'll turn back around and keep it to my group because they think I'm funny.
Yeah, exactly.
But those are great things he's learning in a setting that is adjusting to his needs as well as the other kids. That's the thing is, though, because they accept him for himself, even when he's acting up, the other kids, and they've said that he's kind of become a bit of a leader once we got him U-turned away from the BS
stuff he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, they said he was turned into quite this little leader, because then kids, he is outgoing and rambunctious and loud, but then when the teacher accepts what his attitude is for the day and then incorporates it, then he feels pride. So then he starts answering more questions and pulling others into the discussion and really taking a leadership role. And they're like, that's really awesome. I'm like, that is really awesome. And it's really good to hear, because honestly, he just doesn't put in a lot of effort at home.
Yes, he is a handful. But a lot of kids are a handful at home because that's their safe space. It's a maddening, but at least that's what I've been told. I am not a psychologist. I've not studied it. Maybe this is just something people tell moms to like be like,
feel better.
Yeah, it's okay. They should act like hellions with you. They feel safe. The first time somebody told me that, I was like, how about you feel safe at your house? Just for like an hour.
But they never do.
Exactly.
And it is true, because like even with my older kids, I swear to God, I used to cry at night because I would take them to school or a babysitter and I'd be like, I am so sorry in advance. Feel free to reach me on my cell at any time. They are a handful, and I apologize. And then I would leave, go to work, come back. Thank you. Come back, and they would be like, what are you talking about? These angels? And I'd be like, what? And they were like, so well behaved, so helpful, cleaned up after themselves,
amazing manners,
potty trained. I don't know how you did it.
They'd be like, the fuck? They ain't potty trained in my house. What did you do?
And I would just go home and sit in my room and cry. Why do my kids hate me?
Right? Why are they amazing how I want them to act every day anywhere else but at home?
Yeah, literally, I would just be like, I don't understand why they hate me so much. I don't understand. I do all the things. Why do they hate me?
Yeah.
I still think that some days, but
I think it's normal, like I'm definitely getting there more and more with my kid. I'm like, this kid just freaking hates me. And I will say everything in Lakota's and I's lives have changed very much, very quickly. But now even my mom's like, I think the kid hates me too. I was like, he doesn't hate us. He's a normal teenager. He's not stealing cars. He's not dealing drugs. He's just snappy and wants to be left the fuck alone. And that's normal. And she's like, last year it wasn't normal.
he wasn't a teenager last year.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, well, then he turned 13. He took a good 2 weeks to be nice, and now we're here. I was like, we were lucky with that 2 weeks.
Yeah, normally it happens before the teen actually rolls into a teen.
Yeah, that's what she said about me. She's like, yeah, that's 12 years old.
Sometimes not even that, or not even that late.
Well, honestly, like, I love my mama, and she says this about herself, so I feel like I can say it. She does not like kids after the age of, like, 10 until, depending on how respectful and how much manners they have, again, maybe around 16, 17, she starts liking them now again. She's like, and then she doesn't really like them between the age of 2 and 6. I was like, she's like, no, I don't. And she's like, and the teenagers, she's like, I just want to smack. She's like, and sometimes they don't even say anything. It's their facial expressions. I know what.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you do, because you've been there and you've thought it, man. Remember that.
I do, and that's what I try to remember. Like,
That's what I would remind her. Hey, yeah. Remember.
Because there are days, like, my son looks at me, and I'm like, don't look at me like that. And he's like, what? I'm like, you want to tell me to fuck off, but you are very afraid to tell me what fuck off could do. He's like, well, you said it. And then he walks away, and I'm like, see, I know that facial expression. It was my facial expression at your age. I made that facial expression.
Often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm like, plus, half my DNA, I feel like I can feel what you're thinking half the time. But you've seen it. When my kid actually gets mad, he just kind of will sit back and start to stare at you and, like, And it's either that or blinding, shaking rage. And that's never been something I've seen that I know has happened.
Well, at least I know how to deal with that one, because Damien was like that. And if you didn't handle it very quickly, the next thing I knew usually was him with a butcher knife headed towards his sister, because they were usually the ones that provoked that kind of rage in each other.
Yeah, see, I've just gotten a few calls, been like, well, this kid that's been picking on him for like a year and a half, I hurt him in some way, and that's it. Soda can take a lot, but don't touch him.
Yeah. I don't think touching anybody in a blinding range is a smart idea, except for as a parent, because that's what I would do with Damien. As I would get him, I would come from behind him because it's the safest, keeping my head to the side because they will headbutt, and then sit. All right, you can be as angry as you want, but we're not getting up until you calm down.
Yeah.
Because he would shake, his face would be red, he couldn't catch his breath, and he just wanted to murder something.
And I've never seen it, which almost worries me because I'm like 13 years old and I've never seen that rage, but it's been directed at other people.
It's scary when you see it.
The first time I ever got a call from my son, he was in preschool. And Lakota had come up behind this kid and put him in a full sleeper hold and then dropped backwards off the ladder that was going up to his slide. And I flipped out because that's all they told me. I got there and I was like, Coda, what's going on? And he's like, he had a girl. Like, oh, y'all didn't tell me that part. Can't hit girls in front of Lakota.
They're like, well, that's nice and all, but
yeah, and they're
it's
like,
still school.
He can't be here. And I was like, oh, okay, let's go get ice cream. They're like, what? I was like, I'm not going to punish my kid for defending a woman. I'm not going to punish my kid for defending anybody. As long as I know that's what happened, he ain't in trouble. We're good.
He's like, I promise I'll be quiet now.
Yeah, he's like, oh.
Little muzzle time is not his favorite time, but he gets the message now.
He's like, oh, I have to shut up.
Yeah, if I'm quiet, she takes it off. If I'm loud, I get to be miserable.
I don't think I would deal well with being muzzled either.
He's also a teenager, so some days, not that I would, but some days I do fantasize about muzzling my child, my teenager. I was like, if muzzling the dog for 15 minutes is teaching him that to shut the fuck up, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, wonder if muzzling the teenager for 15 minutes a day would do the same.
Okay, Lakota forgot that I watch his phone the way that I watch his phone. So the other night I called him in the living room and I was like, hey, why'd you just delete all your search history? And he stops. What? I was like, I already seen what you searched. But why'd you delete it? That's against the rules. He's like, how did you? And I was like, I know. So and I laid out a whole brand new thing for punishment. So like for him, I was like, this is what will happen next time. Just so you know, just so you remember, I'm watching. He's like, that's so weird. I was like, no, because I don't check it all the time. I don't whatever, and my job is to keep you safe. So you do what you do. Until you do something wrong, or somebody else does something wrong. Nobody's watching. He's like, because I don't believe in invading his privacy, but I do believe in every once in a while making sure there ain't grown people talking to my child, and my child ain't going nowhere where grown people can talk to him.
I mean, like my kid losing social medias because he decided he was going to be a badass vapor, acting like he was smoking weed and getting high while he was vaping on nicotine, just making all of his Snapchat videos, thinking he was hot shit.
Yep, just like that. Yeah, I told Dakota he'd be lucky if he got social media at 16. And he looked at me, he's like, what? I was like, actions have consequences. Social media is something I believe you should have to have a certain level of maturity to access. So that way I also know you will come to me if something happens, because social media can be a dark place. So no. I was like, if at some point in the next 2 years, all of a sudden I'm like, you know what, he is ready, we will talk about it then. But as far as I'm concerned right now, he's like, you have social media? I was like, and I'm old. I'm allowed to do what I want. I have you. I get to.
I'm responsible for another human being, which makes me considered responsible.
Yes, pretty much. And I was like, and that means I make your rules. Nobody makes my rules no more. And he's like, well, gee. I was like, go ask Gigi how that, and you just hear her from the kitchen. No, I do my best not to tell her what to do, actually.
You're like, exactly. The way we all like it.
Right? And I don't tell you what to do until you do something that bears me being like, hey, kiddo.
We have a problem.
Or, hey, child, I can tell you didn't put deodorant on my wonderful teenage boy.
Ooh.
Go fix it, please.
Those days are rough.
Well, he doesn't think he needs it.
Bear didn't think he needed it for like 3 years.
Oh, so it's normal.
Oh, yeah. He also didn't think he needed to shower.
Dakota hasn't gotten to that point but he has gotten to the point where I checked his body wash and his shampoo, and I'm like, been at the same level for a month and a half. Child, I know why your hair's still red, and it was temporary dye. Go wash it. I'm going to smell you when you get out. And he's like, what? I was like, I will know.
You're
and
like,
now,
scrub.
And now he's back to using body wash again. I was like, well, I also told him one of the same things I told Bear when he was going through the I don't want to shower thing. I was like, I will pick you up, clothes and all, and put you in a shower and just douse you with soap and scrub you all over, so then I get to clean your clothes and you at the same time. Since you don't want to do laundry. Yeah, both of them had the same look. No. I was like, well, I don't really want to do that either. But you could go.
This is your option if you're not choosing to change and shower in the near future. And by near future, I mean today.
So, both of them are like, you wouldn't do that. I was like, I'm bored. I got lots of time, and your oil factories are offending me. They don't think I'm as funny as I do, but that's okay. I don't think they're as funny as they think they are.
They're not.
I will never understand teenage boy humor.
It's very similar to dad humor with a lot more porn and farts thrown in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, that is not funny. He's like, but Mom.
And yeah, that's good. It is funny. I was like, when you watch me watch stand-up, do the comedians ever be like, that was funny, guys? And then they laugh? No, they just laugh. That's how you know it's funny.
Or he'll tell me a joke and he'll be like, everybody else laughed, and I'm like, I'm sorry, they have a shit sense of humor.
Or I'm not 16.
Yeah. I'm like, who did you tell these everybody to? Who is everybody?
Right?
And he's like, well, I was talking to on a game. Oh, well.
That's everybody.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not impressed. Sorry. Or him and his dad, their favorite thing to do is, because we know a lot of people of different ethnicities, is to hear racist jokes that people of that ethnicity are telling amongst themselves.
Yeah. Okay, I do kind of understand that. And I don't even want to tell them. I just want to know.
No,
I know our racist jokes. I want to know their racist jokes.
They will be telling them amongst themselves, and then they will tell them to me and everybody that they see on the streets. And I am like, first, it's not funny. I mean, I'm sure if you were of that ethnicity, like when people tell me cracker jokes or blonde jokes, like, yeah, not all though, but some of them I do find funny. But like, if you're not a blonde and somebody's telling you a blonde joke, or you don't know blonde people, or like you don't associate with racism or sexism or discrimination, then it just doesn't really land the same.
Yeah, well, a while back, I read this thing, maybe on Facebook somewhere, but it's like when you hear an offensive joke, instead of acting offended, just be there like, explain why you think that's funny. Just totally dead face. Like, yeah, I watch how half the people like panic. They're like, "What? What do you mean?" I'm like, "What about what you just said is funny to you? Tell me why you think it's funny." Like, I used to have, no, this guy, I can't say his friend, but he used to do forced intercourse jokes all the time. And finally, I was like, "Tell me why you think that's funny. Let's turn around. Let's say it's happening to you. Tell me why I shouldn't laugh at that." And he's like, that's not what I meant. I was like, that's exactly what you meant.
Yeah, you just thought that in the abstract it would be hilarious, but really in the abstract, that makes it less funny because you're still envisioning a scenario of harming another individual without their consent.
Exactly. I'm like,
Doesn't seem ha-ha to me.
I was like, I can take a joke, and I think a lot of shit is funny, but no.
Well, and I have a sick sense of humor. Like, if it's given the setting, it's like when I play Cards Against Humanity, there are things in that game that in regular everyday life would be offensive, but because the setting is offensive, is being the most offensive as possible, then yeah, I find those funny because in the setting, you are supposed to be the most offensive possible. Yeah. Not, hey, I'm just supposed to make a joke, because if that were the case, there's lots of ways we could do that too.
Well, like, you know, we played Cards Against Humanity. I have a bad habit of drawing the most racist fucking cards in the entire game and putting them together beautifully, is what I thought I'm saying. But if I had heard anybody saying that out of context, like at a bar or whatever, to anybody else, I would be the first person to be like, what the fuck just left your mouth? Like, it's not okay. But, like you just said, in the context of the game, in some certain stand-up situations, it's fucking funny. I don't care.
Okay, so if we want to get to stand-up is different for me.
I said some stand-up.
Because,
some of it,
well, for me, it doesn't. Okay, let me give you my perspective again. Unpopular opinion, I tend to do that. I feel like if people in comedy settings, stand-up comedy settings, and specifically not just targeting one race, targeting another, but of their own race too. But if everybody started feeding into turning the past of racism into what it was, a ridiculous circus of bullshit, and started looking at it like that in today's age and embracing each other and making a joke out of the racism. No, we're not forgetting the past, so we're not doomed to repeat it.
Yeah, we're just saying.
Look how fucked up and how stupid this shit was when people didn't have the knowledge. They are fucking retarded.
Okay, see, I totally agree with that, but there are certain stand-up comedians that's not what they're saying. They're like saying that it was a good thing and they wanted it back, and they're like, ha ha ha. No, you just said some racist shit and then said, oh wait, people aren't responding to it well. Just a joke. That's different.
Yeah, no, that's not the same. And I know that there's an extreme amount of racism and discrimination and sexism in today's day and age, but it is really, really hard for me because we are so far past that time in history and we are still being that ignorant today. I just don't understand it. Like, I have met some people that, and I'm not saying people that are just raised up in like backwoods and stuff. Don't think like that. Like, people raised that I went to school with, like people raised in everyday society, just like you or I.
Yeah.
And you have a conversation with them and you would think that they didn't have past a 4th grade education and they are so ignorant. You are just like,
well, it's like my
I don't know how to converse with you.
It's like my step-grandmother. She was born in a different generation, and I honestly do not think she realized how racist she was. Because she'd say things like, I went to the hospital and this little Filipino boy want to give me a bath, but I can't just let them touch me. I'm sure he's sweet, I'm sure he's nice, but I just can't. And in my head, I'm like, you racist. You don't realize you're racist. I'm not going to say it out loud. I'm glad you don't walk out on your front porch talking to your husband, but oh my God, I love you. I love you. This is why you stay home.
You're like, I don't know how my family evolved, but then, like, realistically, like on my mom's side, both of her parents well, I guess my grandpa was not biological, but still, he was still her parent. Both of her parents come from the South, like their lineage comes from the deep South. My grandpa made it very apparent to everybody in the family. Don't ever get too big for your britches because you ain't all white. And if you think you are, just look at my last name. And I was like, Grandpa. And he's like, no, we were plantation owners hundreds of years ago, and there is no changing the past. He's like, but we ain't gonna carry that into the future. We're not gonna sit here and act like we're holier than thou, or all that in a bag of chips, or we're just white and so bright. He's like, we're not. We're Heinz 57 Mutts. We got a little bit of everything, and if you think you're anything that you're not, you are.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things I find so funny about my family. Like, at least on my mama's side, I don't speak on my daddy's side. But at least on my mama's side, like, there's a lot of people, like, we're white and we're native, and that's it. And I'm like, how much you want to bet I did more research in our family tree than you did? And we got it all, baby. We got it all. Yes, we may be primarily native, Scottish, and Irish, but that ain't all. We got Mexicano, we got African American, we got Latina. Like, it's all there. It's just up in the woodworks.
It's sprinkled in. It's seasoning. But but that's the thing, and that's most people. Like, honestly, what's funny is when my mom got her genealogy back, she was sitting there just like, because she was like, I'm actually white, and I was like, of course you are, Mom.
Look at you.
And she's like, no, and she holds up her thing. She's like, I'm like European and Slavic and Prussian and Norwegian, and she goes, I'm white. I'm like neon white, and I just start dying laughing. I'm like, oh my goodness.
And it's funny to me, like, how much emphasis we put in on genealogy and where we came from as Americans, where, from what I understand, in most other countries, they think that's fucking weird. They're like, you're everything. White or you're not white, like, but we're everything. Why do you care? Like, are you gonna go there? Are you gonna learn the language? Are you gonna become a citizen? No. Okay, like, I've heard it. They're like, we think it's so weird. I was like, really? Because we're like, from the time we're kids, we're like, ooh, where do we come from? What's our family tree? And they're like, so you don't commit more incest? Is that it? Is that why you want to do that? And I was like, maybe, I don't know. They didn't actually tell us why we were doing this in elementary school. But, you know, maybe.
Actually, nowadays, they don't really even talk about, you don't even make family trees in school anymore.
Really?
Yeah, no. Us older people are the ones that are, like, obsessed with our genealogy because they've gotten away from it so much. But, like, in Europe, they keep all the records, like, from the time your birth, like your church, your school, your family Bible, like,
we still
all the records. They keep track of it way better. Why? I think it was just, I don't think it had anything to do with it, incest or not incest. I think it literally was just to keep track of people.
That wouldn't surprise me either.
Like, you existed. Yay for you. Somebody along the line might need to know you existed. Or you died. Somebody might want to know that somewhere.
Lakota and I were getting on the topic of what I wanted to happen to me after I win. And I was like, oh, that's easy. It's only going to cost $2,500. I already paid for it. There's a certificate in my filing briefcase. I was like, they are going to turn me into zirconium diamonds. I was like, after that, I don't. Put me into the fucking ocean, drop me down a sewer. I don't care. Whatever was left of me is diamonds. Do not put me on some chick's finger. I will haunt you both. Come back from wherever it is I went and haunt you both. But I do not want a headstone. I do not want anything saying, like, my date of birth or, like, who I was. And he's like, you just want to disappear? I was like, sure. He's like, that's weird.
But you don't discuss plans with your teenage kids.
I was like, it's. I feel that's the way it is. We're here and then we're gone, and I'm going to be here and then I'm gone. I was like, if I win the lottery and you get whatever's left of it, I can build a mausoleum. Don't care. Put my diamonds in it. As long as I'm diamonds. I was like, why? People get cremated all the time.
Watch him put you into a necklace and be like, she said not on your finger, babe.
We may need to modify this discussion. I didn't even think about that.
Well, it's better than what I was thinking before that.
No.
It was like, what if he just turns you into a bustier?
I thought you were going to say a plug, so I guess that's better.
I hadn't even got that far yet. My brain would have eventually.
No. I don't want to be worn.
Or a diamond dildo.
I don't want to be worn inside, touch. Flick me into the fucking ocean.
You're like, I want a Titanic scene. Take a cruise.
Right? Yes.
Drop me into the center of the ocean. Knowing your kid, he's like, That is weird.
Maybe I gotta do that. The cruise sinks. Mom got her last revenge. No, thank you.
No. He gives you to the girlfriend that he's breaking up with and a cruise ticket. And I'm afraid of the ocean, but my mom, this was her last wish. And then she gets on the ship and he said, as soon as the ship departs to the ocean,
He's like, Mom, do your thing.
No, he's like, by the way, we're breaking up.
Well, then my ghost wouldn't feel bad.
No, I'm just saying, because he'd be like, I'm too afraid to do that shit, but like, she's on the way out. If something happens, I don't want to give it.
Right? Mom warned me. You're gonna do something with the diamonds. Maybe get somebody else to do it. And don't plant me under a fucking tree.
Why?
The Native American culture, that's bad. At least in my tribes. I don't want to be under a tree.
I don't want to be under a tree. I want to be a tree.
That's fine. Being a tree is fine. Just don't.
That's what those pods are.
Yeah.
They turn you into a tree. They plant a tree in you. You in the pod, and then you underground, and then the tree grows from you.
Yeah, I don't want to be underground.
Send me back to nature. That's fine.
I guess, honestly, I don't believe I'm going to have anything to do with my form. This is just a vessel, like, so I don't think I'm going to actually care too much, unless I'm put on some bitches.
Yeah, that's why I want to go back to the earth. And if they can't afford to put me in a pod, then cremate me and dump me. In nature. I don't care where, but just dump me.
Yeah. I want to be a mortician. It's just the only school in Oregon is in freaking
I know you do, but I'm just telling you. She was like...
Oh, yeah. I talked to some guy, I guess he used to pick up bodies for one of the mortuary homes. He's like, I did it for 3 years, and I've never slept a full night since. Like, you don't understand. I was like, yes, I do. I've looked into this for years. Is it something that, like, I just want to do this? It seems like so much fun. I've sat down after watching some of these videos and bawled, and you know I don't cover it. And I'm just like, I don't think I can do what I want to do.
As your devil's advocate here, let me just say that I'm still thinking it's still more like having kids. You don't know the full effect until you're there.
Oh, I guarantee it.
Fuck!
Oh, I guarantee there are things that I will have never thought of until it happens, and I'm like, what? How? I have to go cry.
I don't think crying would be my thing. If I ever had to like deal with a child's body, especially an infant's body, and it like moved or started making sounds the way bodies do.
I thought about that.
Nope.
I don't.
Never again. That's Pet Cemetery shit. I'm out. Never.
Well, I also like figured out a long time ago that if I were to ever be a mortician, I would be leaving Oregon. Anything to lessen my chances of my people coming across my slab. Because I've seen several videos where they like live in a town of like 3,000 people, and they're like, everyone I know has come across my table.
I didn't mean to giggle, but I was like, knowing my luck is I'd be on my way to visit you when I'd die, and then I'd end up on your table anyways.
Oh, that'd be bad. I just start fucking screaming.
You're expecting.
Promised me this wouldn't happen, bitch!
You expect me to arrive that night to visit, and all of a sudden I'm on your table that afternoon. You're just like,
Yeah, that would be a mental breakdown. That would be so bad. Can you imagine the call I'd have to make to Lakota? You have to go see your Gigi. I know I said this wouldn't happen, but I'm not okay.
let's say that's not going to happen until our kids are grown. If that were to ever happen.
No, I would. No, even if he would be grown, I'd be like, you need to go see your Gigi. Because then you and your Gigi can come get me out of my mental breakdown in a day or two. Because it's going to take you both.
Is that call before or after you call my mom?
Yes.
Both. You're like, I don't know.
Oh, God. No. I can't imagine that breakdown with your mom and I, because I know eventually she would want to call your other family member, and I'd be like, no! Not in my vicinity!
Well, she could go, because you would be busy with my kids next.
Yeah. Oh, I'd have to contact the older ones. I would do it. I don't know how well they would like me.
Well, my oldest son knows you. He knows you're my bestie. He wouldn't. I mean, he wouldn't take it.
Well, no, I wouldn't. But he would at least be like, okay, at least I know who she is. I think the other two would be like, who the fuck are you? What the fuck are you?
Oh no,
like,
he would probably be like, I will contact the other two, because they either will be like, don't give a shit, click, or they will melt down.
Yeah.
So. I mean, you never know. Depends on where people are in their mental health. At this point, I think when you contact Jillian, make sure she's with her husband or her mom.
Yeah.
Because she will lose it. But my oldest daughter probably won't care. My youngest daughter, depending on where she's at with her anxiety, may fall apart, may tell you to fuck off. I don't know. But the reality is they still need to know. The people that it's going to affect the most when I go at this point would be William, Damien, and Jillian.
Oh. So I realized something the other day, and it's kind of fucked up. But when my mom goes, like, because I am her only kid, it will be, like, up to me to tell people about the funeral and everything. I ain't telling her sister. She's made my mom cry so much and hurt my mom so bad, like,
I'll tell her after. Not somebody that cares.
Yeah, I will tell her after the fact, so she doesn't come there and pretend to be a victim and to be sad and to be whatever and get knocked the fuck out at her own sister's funeral. That's not what should happen. And I shouldn't be doing that in front of my kid. So, for everybody's sake, I'm not telling her. And I don't think my mom would want me to.
The reality is there's people that don't always need to be involved in everything, because if they weren't making the best of the situation in life, why do they need to try to make the best of the situation now that they're gone? Like,
exactly.
I mean, honestly, you and I have talked about our funerals. If somebody that I don't talk to shows at my funeral, you better make sure they have a quick exit, because if they don't, I expect everybody there to be like, this one right here, let's bring her up front by the casket, or by the ashes, the urn, because this one thinks she was a bestie, but they didn't fucking talk, couldn't stand each other.
Oh yeah, I'd be the first one to be like, she didn't fucking like you. Why are you here? Loud as fuck, and probably while crying. She don't fucking like you.
Make sure you video it and put it on our channel.
Right.
Like, this is the people that came just to fucking spectacular, to put a spectacle on, to act like they gave a fuck. But when she was alive,
you were nowhere to be seen.
Laughing at her misery, trying to find ways to take her down, and telling the world how worthless she was. Like, no, fuck you people. 90% of my family better not show up at my funeral.
Mm-hmm.
If I have one, because if I know I'm going, like if it gets to the point where I know I'm going, I'm not having a funeral. We're having a wake before I go. People come tell me what the fuck you want to tell me now. Nobody's putting on anything for you fuckers when I'm gone.
Right? My bestie isn't even allowed to tell you where I am, so fuck you.
Yeah. That will be between my children and my best friend. The rest of you can go take, and if I have a partner by then, my partner, but the rest of you can go take a fly and a fuck. No. Just know, if you have something to say to me while I'm alive, here I am, alive and kicking. Let's toast to it. Let's say the things. Otherwise, please don't bother me.
Yeah. And that is something I've definitely thought about more in the past few years. There's so many things I wish I could have told people before they gone. And I've tried so hard lately to let people know, like, I do love them, I do care, like, I'm not the best. I know some of you who actually personally know me are going to watch this and be like, the fuck?
Same.
But I think it is so important, like, when people do pop in your head and something, just be like, hey, like, just so you know, I love you, and whatever, because, like, Lucy, no one ever thought Lucy was going to pass away when he did or how he did. Like, everyone basically thought this kid was immortal, basically. There's so much shit I wish I could have told that kid, like...
Honestly, though, the way that kid talked and the kind of universal downloads that he had, it is not surprising to me that he went soon. Because those people are here for a brief moment to enlighten other people. They're not here forever. They're not meant to walk the...
Yeah. And a very intense soul, and they tend to pass on young and in a very intense way.
Also, he was an intense person, because besides, like that night, like I told you, that conversation him and I had, it was amazing right up until his 24-year-oldness came out and was like, let's have sex. And I'm like...
Yeah, the other brain took over. It's like, this was a good, deep conversation and all, but,
now this is just fuckery. I gotta go.
Yep. I loved that kid. He was one of the youngest kids I've met that I was like, the knowledge that you have obtained in such a short amount of time, like, anybody that spent any amount of time with him was affected by him in some way. Not always a great way, but some way. And he made sure of it.
Oh, yeah. He didn't make a good impression on me until the last time we hung out. And I tell you, many times, my sister with her nonsense and my kid, and you gotta... fuck you and your delusions. It's not your child biologically. I don't want to hear about it. That's why I make such a big deal about saying my bonus kids, with kids that will call me mom or that have called me mom, because I never want to take the place of their mom. I think Jillian is the only exception to that, and that's because me and her mom have had good interactions, and she knows without a doubt I'm not... In fact, when we went and had when I went down for Jillian's surgery and she told the staff to let me back as her one person, I forced my way in with her mom. And when I got back there, she was like, I told you just you to come. I was like, I don't really give a shit. She's your mama. Like,
yeah, she has every...
She's the one that gave birth to you. I may be your mama too, but she gave birth to you, and I am not about to make her sit outside while I'm back here. That's fucking rude.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I flipped out on your family member at one point in time because she answered my phone and told my mom that she was my mom. And I do not remember everything that came out of my mouth, but I remember absolutely losing it to the point where my throat hurt for like a week afterwards, and my face hurt, and even the neighbors around at that point were looking at me for like days. Like, what just happened? You don't... My mom's in is a touchy subject. Like, nobody can disrespect my mom. Nobody can say anything that hurts my mom's feelings, no matter what she does to me. I can say some shit, and I can do some shit, but I feel horrible for it right after.
But it's still your mom.
That is my mom, and I will defend her, and nobody else gets to do anything to upset her. Because I know I upset her. I make up for what anybody else could like do. Just even not being mean or anything, just being like, "Have you thought about therapy? Have you thought about shutting up?" No, not since I was 2.
So how about that therapy conversation?
You made me this way. Therapy healed a lot of it. Come on, let's do it together. Actually, I was like, come on, we could split the cost. We can both go to more therapy sessions that way. It's just like, no, I see what you're doing. You're trying to get me to pay for your shrinky lady. I was like, only on the visits you come to.
You're like, okay, I'll throw in one for free. Come do a family session.
Oh, before mine moved to Barcelona, she really wanted to meet my mom. I was like, yeah.
Well, I told you, one of my old therapists really wanted to meet my sister.
Oh, yeah. I understand. She made a great case study.
That's exactly what he wanted her for. Because I was like...
Sorry, that's rude. That is rude.
I was like, the way you call me out, I said she would destroy your office, lose her fucking mind, and not know how to handle it. He's like, I know.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
it's locked in a box where I get to study her room.
And I'm like, are you enjoying this conversation? He's like, more than you know.
Hey, I've said for years, I think a lot of shrinks are a little off themselves.
You know, he was great, but he definitely has a sense of humor like you and I, because he was a biker. And so his comedy, his sense of humor was a little bit towards the darker, rougher edge of life. And he'd been through a lot in his life, like you and I. So before he went into psychotherapy, getting psychotherapy is what led him to become a psychotherapist. Yeah. In fact, he really thought that I would do great. And I'm sure I would if that was a calling that I could handle. Yeah. But like I informed him, I am not in a place where I would be like him and I would be like, oh, let's case study somebody like her. I would be like, somebody like her would walk through my office and one of two things would happen. I would be exceedingly rude. I would fuck with them mentally to where they were broken fully, I said, or I would explode all over them. All three unprofessional and not okay. And he was like, yeah, not okay. And I was like, see, I know this about myself. I'm self-aware.
Yeah, one of my last therapists, she's like, you would do so well. Like, but I was like, no, I wouldn't. No, I would not. Because eventually I'd decide one day I was bored or I'd had enough, or this one client that kept pissing me off was coming in. And I would just look at them eventually and be like, so I tried all the normal ways to help you. But now I'm just going to be honest. All your problems are your fault. And you are not doing enough to fix them because you enjoy being a victim. It gets you off in some sick way. But we can keep playing this game and you can keep giving me money if you like to. And then I get fired and probably lose my license. See, I can't.
See, that's why I
hide in a kitchen and I do well back in my little space. I love it. I have one of the best bosses ever. He just lets me jam out to my music and do my thing.
I think I have a pretty good job when I'm doing mine because I get to scream at traffic.
Yeah.
So it helps me release rage. So when I'm dealing with everyday life stuff, I'm not screaming like, I'm sure you remember 3 years ago, if anything happened, I was screaming at the top of my lungs. I mean, I was still more regulated than a lot of people, but it went from this conversation to...
Well, yeah, I will also say that 3 years ago we were in a household where you had to talk it or yell at top volume to get anything heard.
That was almost 5 years ago, actually.
Yeah, right.
But then, too, then I was very much still a screaming Mimi. It got worse when we moved to the ranch for a while because Jared was like a drill sergeant too. So we honestly, even though it was very toxic, we fed off of each other when it came, like the kids got out of line and we just, it was very militant.
See, honestly, like I didn't realize my parenting style until very recently, and with Lakota anymore. Like, I used to yell. I used to get fucking crazy, but now I just let him sit down and I get real quiet. And I'm like, so, why the fuck do we think we're allowed to do this? And what it is that you deserve, like, to have happen because we did this? And he's like, I don't know. So, like, one of the new things is he kept getting zeros, like, handing things in without even turning his name on them. So I was like, here's what we're going to do from now on out. Every zero you get, we get a lockdown grounding for 2 days. He's like, what's that? I was like, no screens. Nothing of your possessions. No anything. If you want to do some schoolwork, we're cool. I'm cool with that, but nothing else. And for every zero, it's 2 more days until that zero turns into, I don't care, a 10. And then when we get your report cards, and like, we'll go over it again. And he's like, what? I was like, Gigi was very lax on you, and she let you get away with a lot because she felt like being hard on you would get you to not get good grades. Well, now you're writing on papers, I don't know, I don't care, I'm not going to do this, and you're not doing your work. So now we get to do it my way. And he's like, oh, okay. And I was like, I tried to tell you she was the nicer one out of both of us. She got to be hard on me, and so she was gentle with you. I think she was too gentle with you.
You're like, there's a difference between being abused and being structured and with formal discipline.
Yeah.
Guess which I am.
I don't yell it. I do not hit my kids. I will look at my kid and be like, what the fuck are you thinking when he does something that endangers himself?
I honestly feel pretty, I mean, there's nothing I can do to change it now, but I honestly look back in some of the ways that I used to parent my older kids, I feel really terrible about. Even though it wasn't abusive, I feel really terrible about. Like, I don't spank Bear.
Yeah.
Like, not since he was very little. And then I felt so bad about it, and it wasn't helping anything. It just made him more of an ass.
Yeah.
So I just tried to find different ways. And now that I'm at the point where I don't even raise my voice to him unless it's like he's consistently being obstinate. I've said the same thing 10 times and he's still telling me to go fuck myself. Then yeah, I will raise my voice and be like, listen, you got till the count of 3.
Yeah.
Because then shit's going to hit the fan.
Is he... I can't deal with... I wouldn't have deal with Lakota being like, go fuck yourself, because I think you... I don't know, because it's never happened, but I would think it would flip something.
He hasn't actually told me to fuck myself, but I just...
Yeah.
The attitude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely get that attitude, like, but...
And usually he tells me, like, leave me alone, or get out of my room.
Yeah.
Or, I don't want to.
But, like, one of the reasons I'm so thankful that we're friends is because you have had kids and older kids, so you can be like, hey... Like, one of the times I remember, like, I understand why you told him that, but maybe you should explain to him why you just said that and why you were so abrupt, because now he just thinks you snapped at him. He doesn't understand, like, he almost stepped in front of a car. Like, stuff like that. I was like, okay. Everybody deserves an explanation when somebody fucking grabs them and is like, what are you doing?
It's a little startling.
Yeah, okay. We could tell him why we did that. That sounds like a good idea. I was like, you're right. I would be like, what the fuck, too?
Yeah. Well, because one feels like, my parent hates me. They're just jerking me around and screaming at me. But the other is like, oh, I'm an asshole. I just stepped and my mom scared the fuck out of my mom and almost died. She just saved my life.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm the asshole here. My bad. I will watch what I'm doing. I'm sorry, Mom. That's scary. Yeah. And then you're like, I know. That's why I screamed. I'm sorry. I was scared.
Yeah, so like that. Instead of just being like, no. And I have a bad habit. Like, and I do that to grown people, too. Like, which has caused problems before. But I'm like, car or late or whatever done that. Like, okay, next time. Bye. You told me not to react. This is me not reacting.
And react. Hey, emergencies are emergencies.
Yeah.
Just make sure you say, hey, this was a reaction, and here's why.
And I've been working on that. Like, but there are certain times I think especially because he's a teenager, I'm like, any thought? Was there anything that went behind that muscle between your ears before you decided to do ABC? And he's like, I thought it'd be fun. My crush looked at me. She thinks I'm so cool. I'm like, oh, does she? Great. So being totally thoughtless is okay then? He's like, well, no, I thought it'd be fun. And I'm like, child, you make my face twitch in areas I didn't know it could twitch before. And baby aspirin isn't fixing it. Mm. Whatever. Mm.
You caused my OCD to flare up,
Mm-hmm.
and that makes my eyeballs twitch, and it makes my head hurt.
Yeah.
And I don't like it.
I was like, I should lock you in a bubble. He's like, ooh, I could roll it down a hill. I'm like, none of the old threats even were. What the? Yeah.
My dad used to. My mom and dad used to tell us they were gonna. Well, there was two. My mom's was, I'm gonna trade you two in for poodles and nuke the poodles because I don't fucking like poodles. And my dad's was, I'm gonna stick your asses in a fucking, the barrels they talk about using to go over Niagara Falls.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna stick you in one of those and feed you through the bunghole. And when you turn 18, I'm gonna plug the bunghole.
My mom's favorite thing was, I'm going to sell you to the gypsies. And if you think I can watch. And then one day we were going to the coast, and there's this old shot way off in the mountains, and it says the gypsy shot. And I just opened my eyes enough to see that one day, and I flipped the out. I like unbuckled myself, got to the other side. I was like, if we fall in there, I'm running away, and you're never gonna fucking find me. And my mom could not figure out what was going on. And then I like pointed out the window. She laughed so hard she had to pull the car over because she almost
breathe.
hit something. And she's like, oh, is that where it is? And then my kid brain went, I just told her where to sell me. Oh my god. And this is why we can't say things like that to our children.
No, see, my mom used that once on me, and I was like, "That's okay." So she didn't use that again.
I was not okay because she told me what they were going to do to me, and she sold me to the gypsies, and I wasn't not happy. I was like, "Oh, that's even worse than you."
I knew I was pretty. I knew I'd marry soon.
Oh no!
And I was little then, but I didn't care. With everything I'd been through, I was like, some guy will pick me up. I'm pretty.
She kept saying something about me having a baby by 12 years old, and I was like, I'm too tiny for that. When I had a baby, I was still looking at myself being like, oh no.
Again, you got to think about the things that I had went through.
Yes.
From infancy. I didn't care.
Yeah.
Because I think I was like 6 or 7 when she said that to me, and I was just like, okay. And after that, she was like, well, we can't say that to her anymore. It doesn't work.
Yeah, no. Then I ran away. Like, and then as I got older, I was like, I could have been a nomad by 9. Damn it! I would totally have my own little hut deep in the forest by now.
Well, then I really threw my dad through a loop at 13. He told me that he had wanted to name me Breezy. That's how I ended up with the middle name Brienne, because him and my mom were fighting over my name. And so that's how I ended up Heather Brienne. And I just looked at him and I was like, you wanted to name me Breezy? And he was like, yeah. And I said, well, that's kind of done with our fucking family history. And he's like, why? I said, because then I'd have to leave with every slight breeze that came through town. And he's like,
okay, my mom was going to name me China. Like, light, delicate, like, very fragile. And I was like, oh, yeah? Are you happy my name's not China? She's like, well, it wouldn't have fit you, but I also don't like your name. So, my mom fell asleep right after I was born. And she woke up and my dad already filled out all the paperwork with names that she had never heard. She never heard Ashley, Janelle, or anything. She got the hyphenated last names like she wanted. But my dad named me
What did your mom want to name you?
China. China Grace.
Ashley fits you more.
Yeah, I still don't think that fits me either. So, but yeah, definitely more than China. I was like, oh, no. She's like, and then there was a wrestler, China. I was like, the chick that did steroids. No.
She was hot, though.
I didn't say anything about that.
I grew up in that generation. She was hot. Yeah. American Gladiators, that was cool shit.
I think one of my first female crushes was Xena. So.
Yep, Warrior Princess, definitely.
Like, ooh, look at that.
Before that, actually, was Sheena for me. Oh, she was also a warrior princess of the jungle. I don't know. I was always into strong, empowering female role models. But then again, I also like strong, empowering male role models. Like, I like empowering people.
Yeah.
That specifically, I think, like, things like that were not just like, oh, like Superman, where I'm going to go save this person and then I'm going to go back to my fortress and hang out and be a normal person. These people were like, I'm trying to save an entire race of people and empower them.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite, like, comic anythings is actually a villain. And it's Poison Ivy, and I can't help but love her because she's like, we destroyed this earth. And she goes after CEOs and big businesses that are polluting the earth. And she's like, the world's going to survive without you. But we cannot survive if you keep being.
Yeah. If you destroy the planet, we will not survive. But the planet will survive well without you. So kick rocks.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I can't help not. But like, yeah, I agree.
I honestly, my favorite part about her was just that she had poisonous lips.
Yeah.
I'm like, The only problem was that she couldn't, like, not have them poisonous.
Yeah.
Like, because I love to kiss, so that would be a problem for me. But I would love to be able, like, at it, like a snake, like,
at will.
Because there's definitely a few frogs that I would just kiss and walk away and be like, see you later, dude.
Yeah, there's also
Sorry,
a lot
there
of
won't be a
people
later for you.
that I wouldn't mind getting rid of that I don't want to kiss. I don't want them nowhere near my face.
Well, that's true too, but no, I just mean there's definitely some, especially like think about domestic people that have gotten a little bit handsy with you.
Yeah, that could have come in handy a few times.
I promise I'm just being sweet, babe. Give me a kiss. Bye.
Yeah. My fucking luck, I'd do it to somebody and they'd be like, your kiss tastes like rattlesnake with them.
They're like, by the way, did I tell you that I raise rattlesnakes for a living? And but me, I would just look at him and I'd be like, that's okay. There's like 14 other plant venoms in there as well. You just tasted the one.
One year you must use.
Don't worry. If you're still around in the next hour, that means we might have a future.
Right? You can survive that. We might just get along.
Little does he know I'm already planning stronger venom. All right. I think that was good for this week. And we will talk to y'all next week. I know this one might be a little bit longer than normal because I'm having a very hard ADHD day, so we're kind of all over the place. But we love chatting with you guys and hope to see you next week.